So which is better, one-to-one tuition or group tuition? That's what I'm going to be answering in this video. I'm going to go over the pros and the cons of each. And at the end, I will give you my recommendation based on your circumstances, which is likely better for you. So if you don't know who I am, my name is Keefe Fonseka. I'm the founder of ThatBioTutor. And every time I make one of these videos, I'm actually losing money. But I do it because I want tutors like you to win. So let's get straight into it. For one-to-one first, what are the pros? Firstly, low time needed to prepare lessons. So in my experience with one-to-one, most of the time it's very consultative. So I just go in there, the student brings his or her questions and homework, and we go through it together and I teach along the way. So I don't really need to prepare anything if I am already good at the subject. But of course, that means that you actually need to know your content well. If not, you will likely need to ask the student what topics he wants or what topics he or she wants to cover next lesson, and then you have to prepare for that beforehand. Pro number 2 is that there is a very high conversion rate from a trial lesson to a permanent student. So it's very easy to get a student under you once you found them. I find this is particularly true for in-person one-to-one tuition because the relationship between student and tutor is built up very fast. You can get comfortable with each other very fast. And most people are not trying to be maximizers. They're trying to be satisficers. So once they find a tutor who is good enough, they will say, okay, let's just continue, because they don't want to go through the hassle of, having to choose so many different people and having so many different people come into their house. So high conversion rate, it's easy to convert a student once you found them to become your permanent student. Another pro is the high stick rate. So the churn is very low for one-to-one. It's even lower than group tuition because there's that relationship. They see you, it's in person, it's very personalized, very high attention. So it's hard for them and quite awkward and embarrassing to say, sorry, we are no longer, needing your services anymore. It's a lot harder to do that for an in-person one-to-one tutor compared to group tuition because there's so many other students, right? So it's not as awkward if they say, oh, we want to leave. Another pro is that even if you mess up or you make a mistake or you did something embarrassing, right? There is low levels of embarrassment because it's just that student who you have to admit the mistake to, that, oh, I was wrong when I said this thing last time. But if you have a class and you say something wrong and you realize that, wow, I've believed a lie this whole time and I've been teaching wrongly, you have to admit that to all your students and the embarrassment level will be a lot higher. Okay, now the cons about one-to-one tuition is that you cannot scale it easily. Even if you charge quite high rates, you will have a cap of your income because you only have 24 hours in a day. So even if you worked every day and you worked many hours, there will be a limit because you are bound by your time. Another con is that unless you teach all students having the same level, you can never become a credible authority in that space who is very sought after for that specific level and subject. Most of the time, one-to-one tutors, they teach a range of subjects and a range of levels. So you are a generalist, you are not a specialist, and people will not come after you just for a certain subject level. You can only do that if you're really specialized in that and the only students you teach are that subject and that level. Okay, now let's go to group tuition. So I'll start with the cons first. A lot more administrative work is needed for group tuition. And this is to be expected because you are scaling something. You basically need to do the same with one student, but now you need systems in place to multiply that many times. Another con is that you must have great lessons that students are willing to compromise the one-to-one attention and experience in order to join your group tuition. So if you are just teaching one-to-one in person, your lessons actually don't need to be that great compared to if you're teaching group tuition. Another downside is that you have many students to reply to and they will likely be asking you questions throughout the week. So if you know me, I recommend allowing them to ask as many questions as they want and you reply them as fast as possible. So if you're going to stick to this standard that I've set, then it will be a lot of students to reply to, even during your so-called non-working hours. Another con is that you will need a lot of time to prepare great lessons, especially for the beginning years, which is actually what I'm in now. And then in future, you can reuse those lessons and worksheets. So generally, it is way harder than a one-to-one and it takes up way more time. Okay, and now the pros of group tuition, which I'm sure you guys are familiar with, which is that it's scalable. So there's a much higher cap on the income you can earn. And in the long run, actually, it's lower time commitment because if you always teach that same class, same level, you might only have a few classes in a week. And if you prepared for those lessons in the past years, you have made the worksheets, you don't have to remake everything from scratch. So you can reuse it and actually the time for preparation can go to as low as just 5 minutes. This is what I've heard from one of my past tutors who is a lot more successful at this. So in conclusion, which is for you? It really depends on your circumstance. So for group tuition, I know this is the dream for most people probably watching this video because you can earn so much in just a few hours. So this dream is possible. Others have done it, but it takes years to build that foundation for you to finally come to a point where you are so good good at the subject, you can just reuse the lessons. You don't need to prepare that much, and you can still teach great lessons. But even then, you will still need to tweak your lessons a little bit here and there, making them slightly better, using better explanations, better analogies, using different questions, or the syllabus might tweak and change slightly, and you will have to reflect that. Over the years, as the past exam papers get outdated, you will also have to take new questions from the more recent exam papers. So there's always work to do. It will never come to zero, but it can be a lot lesser compared to having so many one-to-one students. However, you need to know that the major issue with this is that it requires tremendous time commitment and tremendous effort, which is to be expected if you're building anything great and of value. Now, what about one-to-one? Who is this for? It's for those who are happy earning just a few $1,000s a month, and you want that relaxing life. Group tuition is not worth it for you. So if you want a balanced lifestyle, if you want to just earn enough money so that you can enjoy the rest of your time, then one-to-one is a really good way to do that. So if you are a student right now and you know that tuition is not going to be your career, you're just doing this as a side hustle during your schooling years, then please, my recommendation is just stick to one-to-one. There's no point trying to build something like group tuition because you know that eventually you're just going to let it go and it's not actually going to be your career. So one-to-one tuition is actually really, really good as an option if you're not willing or don't have the time to commit to an undertaking as huge as starting a sustainable and amazing group tuition. So after watching this video, if you are still not afraid of the hard work that it's going to take for group tuition and you really want it, then watch this next video here about how to transition from a one-to-one tutor to a group tuition.